we have some huge news for the Avalanche ecosystem with their first listing of a crypto index platform being Cook Finance. We're going to talk about all that and more today. Now, I recently made a video on how Banky, an Avalanche native project in the DeFi space, really busted open the floodgates for more user adoption by being listed over on Binance. I made this video when I was back in Porto, Portugal, actually. I just came back recently to the US, and one of the interesting things here is Avalanche, Solana, these other blockchains that are much quicker and actually usable right now. When you compare these with Ethereum, it's incredible for user adoption. I was recently, I'm back in the US. I haven't been back in a while, but I made it back for Thanksgiving. I was talking with some family. Obviously, they all want to get into the crypto space. And, I'm setting up in MetaMask, setting up their wallet, helping them go through the things, pushing them over to the DeFi Decoded series, which is basically the idea where instead of me just helping individual people, which I do all the time with crypto stuff, I can basically like verbally link, hey, go over to DeFi Decoded. It explains any blockchain ecosystem out there that's actually quality and how to get started. And we're still building out that playlist, DeFi Decoded, but really it focuses on, how to lay the fundamentals of setting up the wallet. Then the next step is kind of using some of the decentralized applications in the given blockchain. So whether that be Cardano, whether that be Avalanche, whether it be Solana, whatever it is out there. And with this, Avalanche actually creates this ability for them to bridge, because with Ethereum, problem is, if they're just sending $500 to their MetaMask and they want to swap something, well, guess what? A couple days after Thanksgiving, I was helping some family members with this, and he was trying to swap like maybe 100, maybe $150, and the fee was like $100. So it's just not practical for new users to come on. But if you have what's going on here with Avalanche, you actually can do this. And that's one of the interesting things you have with Cook Finance over here. So basically what they did is they launched kind of this index platform on Avalanche. This video is not sponsored by them in any way. I just find this really, really interesting, because essentially what it allows you to do is kind of pull together ideas. So if one person, for example, I don't know, let's say you're in a group and one person spends their whole day like researching a given market. Well, essentially what you can do with crypto indexes is kind of create a custom index where you can verify all the things in there. You can verify exactly what's going on, versus in the past, we've had a lot of issues with asset managers, with trust and things like this. Look at Bernie Madoff, right? Like these are kind of these things where it's like a Ponzi scheme, but the issue here is people trusted them, right? People put their trust in them. And this is still able to go on today. It still actually happens today. It's relatively common. But in the crypto space, the beautiful thing is the responsibility is fully on the investor, because the investor can actually verify what's in the fund. And that's essentially what Cook Finance allows you to do in the Avalanche ecosystem. So new users, like I was just talking about, coming into the crypto ecosystem, if they're basically looking at this and going, hey, maybe I don't know exactly what Avalanche project to invest in. Like in this, I listed some high cap ones that I think are really, really good, like Trader Joe. When I was talking about, my top 7 AVAX altcoins, go check out this video, by the way. It's actually really good. I go through exactly how you can find these and everything. And I talk about in this, what are some of the ones I like? I like Trader Joe. I like the decentralized exchanges. I like some of these auto compounders. But again, it's hard to speculate on any one of these, and people don't have the time. So the idea here with Cook Finance, really what it allows people to do is kind of outsource that time. So back to that example of the one person in the group. Let's say they spend all their time doing this. Everybody else in the group's like, okay, I'm going to outsource that. I'm going to do my own thing that, like kind of work on your own, your strengths rather than kind of work on the weaknesses. Have someone else align their strengths with that. So they do all the researching. And then essentially what can happen is all these other people in the group, they can basically go, okay, I can verify exactly what you invested in. I can invest in it then myself. And instead of, having all these kind of split bets on different assets, they can invest in one fund, which Cook Finance allows you to do. And that's one of the massive things here. So let's say like the crypto large cap index, the ETH DeFi index, the crypto NFT index, or like the metaverse index, right? So if you don't have time to research all the things going on with the metaverse, it's day to day, new things are happening. Maybe you would just kind of set it and forget it in an NFT index or in a metaverse index. And one of the interesting things here, why I think this is actually good for the overall Avalanche ecosystem, because obviously this project is not native to Avalanche. They're actually bridging over to Avalanche. One of the biggest things here is their ability to basically, one second, let me pull this down. So these Avalanche Focus Index. So it allows users to essentially gain exposure to the Avalanche ecosystem without, like I said, kind of betting on one individual project, which I think is good for the long term. So essentially, they're going to actually roll out 3 new Avalanche Focus Index. So one would be the AVAX Ecosystem Index. The next would be the AVAX Mega Cap Yield Farming Index. And then lastly, the AVAX Stablecoin Yield Farming Index. So essentially, again, instead of having to use like a stablecoin yield farming index, what you could do is invest in this I said that wrong. Instead of actually doing the yield farming yourself and going in, dealing with the Web3 wallets, you can actually invest in the index and gain exposure to that, right? So it's all about this idea of kind of adopting new users and allowing them to gain exposure to certain trends versus, like when I was helping a family with setting up the crypto stuff, and that's why I made that whole DeFi Decoded series. It's a bit of a challenge because you have to, it's like, okay, so connect your Web3 wallet. And it's like, what's a Web3 wallet? And then you're like, okay, help them set up the Web3 wallet. And they're like, wait a second, what's my private key? So there's so many kind of beginner steps that they have to understand, where if all they know right now is, how to use a centralized exchange like Coinbase or Gemini, whatever it is, it's going to take a lot of steps to go. They're going to have to watch that whole DeFi Decoded series once I'm done with it. They're going to have to watch the whole thing just to kind of understand what you're talking about. So if you're kind of actively investing in the crypto space, these things a bit better. Again, to kind of break down the idea here is what Cook allows people to do is kind of skip ahead and go, okay, I just want to gain exposure to it. I don't necessarily have the time to learn about how to use a decentralized application, how to use my Web3 wallets. I just want to invest in that trend, just like people can gain exposure to Bitcoin who have no idea, they barely know how to use their phone. They can gain exposure to it through things like a GBTC, right? So like the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, or these new kind of investment avenues where you don't actually custody the Bitcoin yourself. You don't understand the underlying technology. You just understand the trend. People are able to do that, right? So it's all about that gaining exposure and kind of opening up the gates there. That's why I was talking about, when Binance listed Banky, is it busting open the floodgates, because what it allows for is, hey, maybe in 6 months, Cook could be listed, that's going to be huge. And some of these other ones, if they're listed as well. So anyways, here, if we look at Cook, this even makes it more interesting. Again, this is not investment advice. This I just think is very, very exciting for the Avalanche ecosystem, because again, it gives this ability, the whole thing that I've been talking about and kind of wrapping together is this ability to gain exposure to a given narrative or a given market, in this case, Avalanche. And why Avalanche? Well, if we look at user adoption, Ethereum causes a lot of issues, crazy high fees. If we look at something like Solana, something like Avalanche, something like Cardano, even though Cardano is not fully rolled out yet, you have some interesting opportunities there for the long run. So with this, Cook has not done very, very well. I can tell you that. And this recently got put on. It hasn't even had a pop since then. It's incredibly low market cap, so be very, very careful. But I do find this interesting personally, because hey, let's say I spend a lot of time researching global investment strategies, right? This is a lot of what I do with Invest Global, with investglobal.io, the websites, and on the channel, I just kind of explain what I'm thinking about on a day-to-day basis. And essentially what this allows you to do is, let's say you spent all your day researching NFTs, right? That's what you do. You're trying to find the best way to flip an NFT. You can go, hey, wait a second, for me to create a little bit of passive income on the side, or create some ideas that my friends can invest in, family can invest in, whatever it is, without having the risk of, that central point of failure where if this person's lying about what they're investing in and they're just pooling all this capital, they can run away with it. Well, there is no really rug pull with this, because with Cook Finance, they basically allow the people who are creating the index to be verified what's actually going on there via a smart contract. And then all the other people can actually go in and look at the different indexes to go into. So it's very simple. You just hook up your Web3 wallet. This is a practice wallet. And what we would do is we would just go ahead and, let's say they list the new Avalanche ones on here. We'd click in whatever it was so we can go to the large cap index. And obviously these are very volatile because it gives you an average in position rather than a consolidated bet into one project. Although it would be even more volatile if you had that consolidation, but it all depends on what are you optimizing for, right? So this, in my opinion, is someone who's a bit more like the protocol in and of itself, using it, investing in these funds, is someone who's a bit more passive, right? They're not hands-on in the crypto space. They're not betting on individual projects. It gives them the ability to do this, the optionality, versus the people creating these indexes would be the examples that I was giving of people that specialize in these things. And that's just how I view it. That's just my point of view. But if we're looking at the crypto large cap index, the CLI, we can basically see how this is broken down. And this is just a good example because it's a very, very simple one. So it's just Bitcoin and Ethereum. Super, super simple, but this can also get more advanced. So for example, if we go back here to the article and we look at, okay, the AVAX ecosystem index, what that could essentially give us would be like, so here, let's go down here. I was just going to pull up the Avalanche site real quick and I'll show you. Because there's basically this ecosystem right here. So if you go into the Avalanche sites, it would basically give you an average in position on what I talked about in this video, where it looks like I'm screaming there, where basically I lay out all my projects that I'm at least interested in the Avalanche ecosystem. And instead of going in each of these, researching, which you should do anyways, I talked about in that Do Your Own Research video, I've linked below every video, but instead of going in and like speculating on each of these, essentially what you could do is just gain exposure to the whole thing. And in that case, it's much more compelling because the problem that I've always seen with indexes, just to take a little aside here, is if you're looking at the stock market, they all kind of average down to be like the best possible situation really is like 7-8%. But with the crypto ecosystem, the good thing is you're kind of managing risk. You don't have the upside, the overall just kind of parabolic upside that you would with one given project, consolidated bets, but you still don't have that downside. So that's the double-edged sword. With the indexes, you kind of get a lot of exposure to the upside, but at the same time, if you're investing in an index and you haven't kind of looked at the overall macro situation of the crypto market and you're investing right before the bear market, that's where you can get screwed. So you have to be very, very kind of wary of that you don't have the sharp edges, if you will, of a given projects. Rather, they're kind of like rounded edges in a way. So you still have risk, you still have reward, but it's kind of in that averaged in way. And I think that's a very simple way of breaking it down. But I hope you guys at least understand that a little bit. Besides that, I mean, I'm considering doing another video on Cook Finance because I just find this idea so interesting. And I didn't necessarily get to go into super detail of their platform, but they have a lot of interesting things going on here. Maybe I'll connect with the team and do some sort of interview. I've been kind of talking with a lot of different crypto projects, and we'll be doing some interviews here moving forward. But that's the overall plan. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know in the comments down below. You can also join the Telegram group, like the video, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date, hit the notification bell, and click all. Invest global, and until next time.